Yes. Hello, I'm Martin Wikelski. I'm the director of the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior in Germany and professor at the University of Constance. And I'm also the PI of the Icarus project on the German side. So the International Cooperation for Animal Research Using Space that is being launched on Wednesday. Yes. So I think, yeah, one of the key findings is that animals are really good at predicting um, environmental features, and one of them is really environmental catastrophes. So apparently, animals have a sixth sense, and that you can understand that because individual animals interact with other animals, and as a collective, they have a swarm intelligence, which is sort of the sixth sense of animals. And we could figure out that animals that are in disaster areas, such as in earthquake areas or in volcanic areas, they seem to understand ahead of time that these environmental catastrophes are coming. So they appear to sense that something is changing in their environment that is giving them fear. So they are getting nervous, they're getting really active, and this is something that we can measure very precisely. Well, for those kind of predictions, the best is actually for the volcanic eruption, it's animals that roam a volcano. And what we tested was goats at Mount Etna, one of the active volcanoes in Europe. And we also tested farm animals in an earthquake area in the Abruzzi Mountains in Italy. And in that case, it's actually farm animals that are inside buildings. So they are inside the barns, and that is cows or sheep or also dogs. Well, the dogs are actually roaming around, and it's really the interaction of these different species of animals on a farm. Mhm. Yes. So what we are doing is, in this case, we were waiting for an earthquake to happen in an area that's close. I mean, close enough that we can go there before the aftershocks. So we went there, and the good thing was, I mean, the good thing for us was that the earthquake series stopped and then restarted again. And it started with a 6.5 earthquake, which is fairly substantial, fairly strong. And then we have all the aftershocks as well. And what we measured with the seismologists are a total of about 15,000 earthquakes over a period of a few months. And that includes everything from zero point 0.2 magnitude to 6.5 magnitude. But then what we do in the Icarus project is also that we measure the behavior of the animals, and that is measured by 3D acceleration. So it's really the movement of an animal in space is what we measure. And we measure that continuously with about between 16 to 40 hertz, so very quick measurements. And we have that with the same time series as the earthquake series. And this is very nice because it gives us a very good comparison between the series of earthquakes and the series of animal behavior. And what we find is that the animals actually before an earthquake, and it's a predictable behavior of the animals, they react, or they show a behavioral reaction. So in the case of cows, for example, they initially get much quieter. They stop moving. And that's really strange. I mean, we imagine this like, there's something strange in the environment, and they just sort of stand there and look around, and then the other cows are the same, but then the dogs are going crazy and the sheep are going crazy, and then the cows are going even more crazy, and then they amplify the behavior of the dogs and the sheep, and then for about half an hour, 45 minutes, apparently all the animals on the farm are going crazy. They're really mad. They are moving around. They're rattling. They want to escape from the barn, and then they calm down again. And then between 2 and 10 hours later, the earthquake comes. And this time difference. So if the animals give us 10 hours warning, then the earthquake is actually really close by, the subsequent earthquake. And what we assume is that the plates in an earthquake, they lie sort of on top of each other, and they make a lot of pressure before there's an earthquake. And we assume, and there's some evidence for that, that ions are being resolved, are being evacuated from the rocks, and they are traveling in the air, and then this ionized air reaches the animals. So it's really a sort of a sense of the earthquake ahead of time that the animals feel, presumably with their fur and their feathers, and they're outside, and sort of it's like static in the air. There's something wrong, and that's what they feel, and they amplify each other's behavior by looking at each other and interacting with each other. Yes. Yes. It's Yes, so we think this is exactly the same kind of behavior. It's just more strong, more amplified before an earthquake or before a volcanic eruption. Probably they do, but we don't know because we did not record the sound. We only measured the 3D acceleration. So we don't really know. We have not filmed the behavior because it was over a period of months. So we don't know for sure exactly what they're doing there. Yes, I mean it's similar to what you have in your cell phone, similar technology, but it is a little data logger that in this case was around the neck, like a necklace in the cows or in the dogs, and that measures their acceleration. Yes, so that is the plan with this Uragan experiment on the Russian side and Icarus, this sort of joint experiment that we're doing on the ISS, that any animal that we outfit with any of these data loggers, they can tell us about these things around the world. But we will also go to specific places around the Rim of Fire. So that includes Kamchatka, it includes Indonesia, so places where we expect earthquakes, Chile. We want to go there with our Russian colleagues and put data loggers there on farm animals to see if we can really predict in different places around the world, if we can predict the earthquakes and these natural disasters. Yes, that's the plan, but we don't know yet if um, if there are specific advantages from where we did the study in Italy, because earthquakes are tricky. I mean, they sometimes the plates sit like this, sometimes they sit like this, and sometimes they sit like this, and it may be different each time how the animals can predict it or cannot predict it. So we have to learn a lot, and we have to study many more earthquakes. So it is a research project for now, but we think it has a lot of potential to really work in the future. Well, we so far we only tested with, I mean, one volcano, a volcanic eruption, and also one earthquake area. So we have to do a lot more around the world, but it is very difficult because you can never really predict when these things happen. So in the future, having a lot more animals being monitored, I think we can learn a lot more about these disasters. But we do know that, for example, catastrophes like desert locusts, so the locust plague, we know that animals like storks or cranes, they find these desert locusts much quicker than any human observer. So that means there are other types of natural disasters like these desert locust outbreaks that animals can monitor much better than humans or any other sensor. And also, for example, disease outbreaks or disease transmissions. If you have avian influenza, that, for example, originates in some lakes in China, using Icarus tags, we can now measure the skin temperature or body temperature of these ducks, and we know if they have a high body temperature, then they have an infection. And then we can send people there and say, well, take a sample from these ducks and do a genetic analysis that we know how the viruses look like that are about to emerge, that are about to come. And then the ducks from there actually fly through Russia, and then from Russia the ducks fly into Europe. So we know sort of the connectivity of these diseases, which is another natural disaster. So I think in that case, I'm pretty sure that animals can tell us a lot about these different natural disasters. And I think that is also what the Uragan project that Mikhail Belayev is heading in Russia is really interested in. Yes. 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 Um, well, we have not specifically done this, but we are working with psychologists. So we are using the same methodologies to understand how humans change their activities, their behaviors in response to different stressors. So eventually we can look at these topics as well, but it's often a little more difficult because with humans it's more difficult to, that you have a good sample on people that are in these areas, and it's something that we probably would have to do with people in places where they are closer to nature. So with herders in Mongolia, or with the Buddhas in Bhutan or whatever. I mean, those people that where we know they're close to nature, and that they're not so much influenced by other societal destructions. But I think it is a very interesting topic. We are actually starting with a project to understand how people change when strange weather is coming. There's one phenomenon in Europe where the wind goes over the Alps. So it goes up from Italy and comes down to Switzerland and Germany, and people get a lot of headaches. And we're trying to figure out which people are getting these headaches, what that means. how that is related to weather phenomena. So those kind of things we are trying to understand as well using similar methodologies, but it's in the very early stages. Yes. Oh, okay, sure. Yep. Good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes, that would be great. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Bye.